Are we on? We good?
We're on, man. Let's do it.
All right, let's get it started. I got Matt and Naeem here. Another episode of Midlife Playbook. Today, we are going to talk about keeping the spark alive in your marriage and or relationship. And I don't mean something that's 6 months old. I mean something that you're in for the long run.
Ty, I got to stop you, Matt.
Yes, please go
That
ahead.
sounds like the most boring ass topic I can imagine, and no one wants to tune into it. But listen, I promise we're gonna throw some funny stuff in there, and you guys stick with us. This thing's only 20 minutes long anyway, so we're here. We're watching football. It's football Sunday.
Get in.
Look.
Oh, God dang. Sorry.
But we're watching Bengals Titans.
12 seconds.
12 seconds left.
4 halves, Mike.
Okay. Respectable. All right, cool. So we're back to it. So listen, Matt's been married for 16 years.
Been together 16 years.
16
married for
years.
10.
Yeah, I'm approaching being together for 5, married for 3, and we're both on second marriages. So that's a little backgrounder that you need to know. His first marriage was very short.
Correct.
And one he's in now, he's going to be until the day he dies.
Yep.
My first one was longer. It was 10 years or so. And now the woman that I married now, I'm going to be with her till the day I die. So we're kind of giving you two opposite ends of the spectrum. But why don't you talk a little bit about like the longevity? How you guys keep the spark after 16 years? Wait, hold on. Before you answer that.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Christ. I already opened mine. I'm behind.
This shit. Oh, God.
I've been asked that. We've been asked that a lot. And 16 years together, 3 years dating, 3 years engaged, and then 10 years married. We had all of our kids before we actually got married. Longevity.
We had our gloss over that.
We had our kids over out of wedlock.
What is going on here? Slanging and banging before you make an honest woman out of her. What are you doing?
I don't know what happened there. I don't know. I haven't figured out how kids are made yet. I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like there was a lot of beers involved, maybe. Not really sure.
3 different times.
3 different times. So anyway, so I think part of it is building that bond early on, earning that trust early on. And I will tell you, once the kids were here, it became a lot more difficult. As you know, you have kids too. You went through that.
Mm-hmm.
The stresses of life with the kids, the stresses of work. Communication is important. You know, what's funny about communication is a lot of times you will hear people say, oh, communication is the key to longevity. Well, here's what I'm going to tell you in our experience. Communication is going to happen. Things that need to get talked about will get talked about in the course of your life. I don't necessarily know that it's the most important thing. It is definitely an important aspect. But at a certain point, you become acutely aware of what your spouse likes, dislikes, wants out of the relationship. You become aware of that. It's not something you need to talk about every single day, but you do become aware of it. I think one of the things that we do now is we try to go out on a date night at least once a week.
Well, hold on, let me stop you there.
Yeah.
So I want to back up just a little bit.
Okay.
Because I disagree with you on that.
Okay.
You say that it's not the most important thing. I think it is.
Okay.
And the only reason I say that is I think when you look at relationships, whether it be personal or they be professional, if you trace back where the breakdown happened in that relationship, it can usually be traced back to a breakdown in communication. And I would say definitely in my first marriage, failed on communication big time.
Yeah.
Talked about a lot of stuff, but
Right.
to this day, I don't even know who that chick is.
Right.
And, what we do now, Alicia and I, if something's bothering us, we will pull each other aside. We get very serious and we're like, okay, listen, this is what you did that bothered me. How do we move forward so that either it doesn't happen again or did I misinterpret it? Like we go soup to nuts to figure out why that happened. And I think if we didn't do that and you just let things gloss over, or if you just say, don't worry about it, I'll get over it, then those things will eventually begin to build up. And then one day they boil over.
Right.
And which leads to, all type, depending on how strong of a person you are.
Right.
That could even lead to infidelity. Because you're just pissed off at your spouse.
So I agree 100% with everything you just said. So that was Jamie and I early on. I'm speaking more to once you get past, year, like let's say 15, right? At that point, Jamie and I,
Pro now, he's been married.
well, yeah, I've been married since the beginning of time. We now have had a lot of those conversations. So I guess I'm speaking more to the continuing longevity because we've had those conversations that you're speaking of. At a certain point, people are who they are. Your tendencies kind of are what you are, right? So I feel like our conversations to that degree are not what they used to be because we kind of know each other at this point, kind of know each other, how we tick. We kind of know how we're going to think in certain situations. We kind of know what buttons we can push and can't push on each other, if that makes sense.
Totally.
So we do still communicate. We do still talk about stuff, but it happens organically. I guess is maybe a better way to say it. That's what I mean by the communication. What needs to happen is going to happen. And I also think it takes two people that are goal orientated to the point of, I want to be with you for the rest of my life.
That's a huge
and
statement.
understanding that if both of you aren't on the same page with that, I think you're playing from behind the eight ball from day one if you're not on the same page.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not on that page the minute you meet them, but at some point in your relationship, you progress to the page where like, yep, this is my person, this is my human, this is how it's going to be now for the rest of our time together.
And that's a huge thing too, man. And
Yep.
so 2 points here. I'm speaking from the standpoint of a very, I don't want to say very brief marriage, but a marriage that's earlier on in its years.
Right.
You're speaking from a point where you guys have been married for, a decade and a half plus.
Yep.
And so, we do have different perspectives. And so,
yes,
you just gotta, I want you guys out there listening to know that that's the perspectives that we're coming from. And the second thing I wanted to bring up was when you said that you found somebody and you're like, that's my person. Yeah, cough drop or something, man.
No, I'm good. Don't worry about it.
Drink
it's
some
fine.
beer.
Just give me mouth to mouth. It's fine.
Oh, God. I'm married, remember? So, no, I think that's a huge, huge point to make. You need to find somebody in your life where you're like, you are my person. If you both are on that page where you can say, no matter what happens between us, aside from infidelity, because that's a deal breaker for me and Alicia. Like,
right.
Infidelity, we're number one, we're just not going to do that.
Right.
And then number two, you just got to know that no matter what happens, I've got your back.
Right.
And people get married and don't have that agreement.
Right.
Amongst each other.
Yep. It's one of those things where it doesn't matter how mad you are at the other person, you still open a can of pickles for them, right?
Yep.
Or the jar of pickles, that kind of thing where you've always seen. I know you've seen videos of that on TikTok or whatever, but there's real life applications for that, right?
Yeah. Or you ever seen the two people sitting on the bench, but they're sitting far apart from each other, but they're married.
Right.
And he's holding the umbrella over his wife, like with his arm as extended as and going. He's like, just because I'm mad at you doesn't mean I don't love you.
Right. And that's it. And you're allowed to be mad at each other. And I think it's actually healthy, right? You hear some relationships where people talk about how they don't get in a lot of fights. Well, I think that's dangerous waters, right? That tells me you don't have communication if you're not getting in fights, because that means something has happened.
Or it's not real.
And something has happened to make the other person mad, or you did something that you didn't know was going to bother them because it's not a conversation you've had before.
Or the person doesn't even feel comfortable coming to you with what you did to bother them, so that now they're just a ticking time bomb.
Right.
A freaking ticking time bomb, because one day it's going to come to the surface and it's going to be too much to handle, and that's where divorces happen. So anyway, this shit's getting boring, so let's get back to what we were going to talk about.
I don't know where we're going.
You can tell both of us had a little little something boiling up there. But all right, so talking about stuff that what you got to do to keep the spark alive.
Right.
I've always said this: what you did to get her is what you need to do to keep her.
Right.
I've always thought that.
I don't know what I did to get her. I don't
know either.
So what's funny is I believe the four of us were out on one of our many always great ideas to drink at 2:00 in the morning somewhere. And we were kind of talking about the time we met in our first date. And I don't know if you remember this conversation, but we were talking about how I always wear this. I have this just terrible yellow shirt. It's got horizontal stripes on it. It's a horrible looking shirt.
Straight out of 1997.
Straight out of 1997, but that is what I wore on Jamie and I's first date. So to this day, on our anniversary date, I wear the yellow shirt. Well, we were talking about our first date, and Jamie was telling the story of how I showed up in that yellow shirt, and she thought I was this big nerd, and she wasn't sure if I was going to be the right person for her based on this stupid ass yellow shirt I was wearing. You probably don't even remember this conversation.
I do.
It was this night where we were already out drinking at 1:30 and thought it was a good idea to go to another bar.
So what you're saying is, so what you guys do is you recreate your
Yes,
date
we recreate the date night every
night, every
year.
anniversary.
On our anniversary, we recreate what we wore at least. We don't recreate where we went. The place we went doesn't exist anymore. But we do recreate what we wore. Point is that on my very first impression that my wife had, she thought I was this big nerd that didn't know how to dress. That was first impression.
Well, you're still big. You're
Well-
not so much a nerd that I don't know if you know how to dress.
The next date. So the next date we had was a couple days later. She agreed to, in her words, give me another chance because she wanted to see. So our relationship was almost dead in the water before it started because of my inability to know how to dress properly, which I think that could be a whole nother
That's
podcast.
a whole, yeah.
Because I don't know, my guy Naeem here is a pretty sharp dresser.
Sometimes it's only because Alicia dresses.
He's a pretty sharp dresser. Next day we went on was a couple days later, and I came from work and I told her, I said, look, I'm coming from work, so I'm going to be like dirty, smelly, whatever. I was framing houses at the time. And apparently that was it, right? So I showed up wearing a hat. I was dirty, came right from work, and here we are later, 16 years later.
16 years later.
But as far as so the whole point of this is I'm not really sure what I did other than wear a hat and dirty shirt.
Yeah.
So to keep that spark alive now, man, it's tough. I've tried everything over the years. Buying her lingerie, flowers, leaving her notes around the house. All these kinds of things I did do early on. Not so much in the last few years.
So what would happen now if you were to, maybe she goes out, I don't know, for a drink with Lish or something like that.
Yeah.
You just go randomly place like 3 or 4 notes around the house, maybe one in her car, saying, hey, I love you, or you're such a badass at work, and that's why, you're such a great mom, and this and that. Put them in their underwear drawer.
That was Sam Hubbard that scored that touchdown?
That's crazy.
I didn't know that.
Ha.
Damn.
But what if you did that, though?
So if I did it, she would definitely acknowledge the notes, and she would be very thankful. She would be very appreciative. She is appreciative of gifts.
Would she be shocked, though, because you haven't done?
Would she be shocked? Ooh, that's a good one. I think the notes would be what would surprise her the most. I haven't done that in a very long time. I do still get her flowers and stuff to this day, so the notes would probably be what would surprise her. I haven't done that in a long time.
Yeah.
She used to do that for me as well. But again, some of these things kind of, as the relationship progresses, I don't want to say you get to a level of complacency. I think it can happen very easily. You hear people talk about the roommate stage of relationships, right? Where sometimes with kids and life that you just kind of go through the motions every day. We're not there, but yeah, I think the notes thing she would be appreciative of it. Maybe a little surprised as well, yes.
Makes it a little kinky or something like, hey, maybe leave a note on her washcloth in the shower saying, hey, why don't you come nudge me on the shoulder? And I'll give you the old hibbity-dibbity.
Hibbity-dibbity?
I don't know. I'm trying to keep this PG-13.
PG-13, where we start that?
I don't know. But no, listen, man, and like I'm saying, the difference between longevity and brevity.
Right.
So I just came off a stint where I just left a bunch of notes for Lish, and she just left on a trip, and thank God she's coming home tonight because
that's right. You've been a bachelor. You've been a stay-at-home dad for the last week.
Days.
Oh, what the hell?
Freaking 6 days. Well, she's living her best life, but I'm happy she got to go and spend time with her friend and decompress. It's a stressful time of year for her. But, I even slipped a note into her suitcase that she didn't know about. So when she opens it, she's like, oh, yeah, you're thinking about me. All those things.
Right.
And,
oh, yeah.
One thing we're doing tonight is, when we were younger, people would always pick you up at the airport. No one does it anymore. You just drive to the airport.
Right. Yep.
Well, she was mentioning to me the other day, she's like, that used to be so cool when you'd get picked up or go pick people up and they'd have roses and all that. So get this. It's the Bills Lions today at 4:25.
So nobody cares about the Bills in Ohio.
Everyone cares about Bills in Ohio.
Nobody cares.
Listen. I am leaving my house at 5 o'clock to drive 40 minutes to the damn airport where her car is already there because she drove herself there. But I'm going to go to the airport.
Oh, shit.
I'm going to go in with all the kids. We got a dozen roses and some other flowers, and we're going to greet her as she comes out of the airport. And I'm going to miss my football. I got YouTube TV on the phone, though.
Does the sign say welcome back from jail?
I should have a sign that says you have to stay like 1,000 yards away from kids or something. Sounds stupid. But no, but it's about listening to, she mentioned something to me and I took a little mental note of that and had the opportunity to execute it actually rather quickly. This is in the last 2 weeks. I heard her say that. So, we'll be able to do that tonight. And it's just little stuff like that, man. You got to keep
active listening, man.
Yeah. And so, even have you guys ever bought any of the books off Instagram, like Date Your Spouse Around the City, or where the book gives you all kinds of ideas, or like the kinky books? Or
no, we have not done that. We have. I know we've looked online for ideas, but no, we've never read a book. Like the Love Languages book. I haven't read that. I think
that's actually a really good book.
I think Jamie read part of that. I did not.
Yeah. But no, I'm talking about those books where you turn to page 1 and it's like,
we haven't done any of that.
Like you have to scratch something off.
Yeah, we haven't done any of that.
Go downtown.
Yeah.
Get a hotel.
Right.
Pick a random restaurant. And at dinner, you have to talk about X, Y, and Z. Like there's a lot of great resources out there that are fun, not boring. Like Love Languages is a great book. I think it's a boring book.
Yeah.
And just reading books about love who are just preaching to you, I think all that shit's boring. I like the adventure books that make you get out and go do stuff. Yeah, right. For sure.
We've never done that. It's a good idea. We'll try it. And one thing I want to say to start bringing this home, I know we could probably continue to talk about this, but one word I always like to use when people do ask me, how'd you make it last so long? And to me, this word kind of encompasses a lot of things, but it's understanding. And
I thought she was going to say it's because you got that dirt.
Well, first of all,
it's bringing the heat.
What is that? 33 seconds in a cloud of dust? I don't know. Anyway.
All right. What were you going to say?
I don't even know anymore.
This guy's all flustered.
Oh, my God. No, it's just understanding. And the reason I say it encompasses a lot is the reason I use it is understanding how she thinks, how she feels, what kind of her expectations are, and what her reality is every day, right? And that means a whole hell of a lot of different things for a whole hell of a lot of different people. But I like to use understand. Just understand your partner. Understand how they think, how they feel, everything about them, their day-to-day life. And a lot of that is reading body cues and understanding when they come home, they've had a shit day of work. They're wearing it on their face or wearing it in their body language.
It's a good body cue, like when she puts her ass out when she's like getting something out of the counter or something.
Well,
that's a good body cue.
That's
a solid body cue.
That is a solid body cue. Or wearing sundresses out on date night's another good one.
What does that even mean?
I don't know what that means. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. The beer's taking over. We got to stop drinking while we're doing this.
No. That's what makes it fun.
Oh, speaking of fun, and this might, we gotta talk about some of these trips, man.
Oh, the trips keep the spark alive.
Trips keep the spark alive.
Absolutely.
And I'm not talking about trips with the family. I'm talking about trips with your spouse.
Yeah. Or a group of friends.
Or maybe a group of friends.
And we're not swingers, but damn, do we have some stories about freaking swingers.
That is a whole, listen here.
Right.
That is a whole nother episode talking about.
And we got to get the ladies involved with that one.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're storytellers and they'll be able to help.
The wives are going to make the guest appearance about swingers because we have had multiple interactions.
Oh, my gosh.
With swingers. And that is, you know what? We're going to leave it at that. We're going to bring the wives on. That is a whole nother episode, so you definitely want to stay tuned for that one.
Definitely, guys. Hey, appreciate you listening. We'll check back in on you.
All right, thanks a lot.
See you.